Just listen.
Welcome to Horse Sense Radio. I'm your host, Christine Rolando, and I'm the CEO of Signet Equine Appraisals. Now 40 years in business. Wow, hard to believe. Life goes fast every single day when you're involved with horses. That is no doubt. The object of talk radio with Horse Sense is about people that change the world. And today I have two very special guests with me. I have Colleen O'Dea, the Executive Director. We're going to give all of her credentials in a moment. And also I have Joe Wagner. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening from. Are you guys with me?
Yes, we are. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us.
As I said, Horse Sense Radio is all about interviewing people that make a difference in the world. Horse Sense Radio is about talking with people and our listeners that love horses, passionate about horses, but even folks that are new to horses, because on Horse Sense Radio, you'll always learn something. And today, I'm going to start with a really incredible quote. This is, "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." That was from Benjamin Franklin. So today I wanted to share that because that's what we will be talking about. Let me get back to Colleen, our first guest, Executive Director from Equine Tranquility Wellness Center right there in Andover, New Jersey. And you have so many credentials, I could go right off the page, but I'll give it a shortened version. A certified path instructor, centered riding instructor, and currently you're a USDF instructor in that certification program. And what excites me about what we're going to talk about today is you're a certified John Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker as well. Welcome again, Colleen.
Thank you.
And Joe, you're with us too, Joe Wagner. Joe, your bio is just as long as Colleen's. You have 33 years of corporate consulting and training in an automobile industry. But I know that you're going to take those expertise and you're going to be using them so deeply with the horse training and the horse therapy, etc. But Joe, you're the owner of Automotion Consulting and Training Company, and you're actually a subject matter expert in customer service management. You guys are an amazing team, and I'm happy to be bringing you both together. And we're going to go on and talk more in detail about this type of learning, this situational learning using horses. But before we do that, let me just always give a tip of the day. I'm going to shift gears just for a moment. I'm going to give one superfood because, again, this is about learning and we want your brain to be nice and sharp. So we get a tip of the day every show from Macaulay Topash. And it's therootedjourney.com, therootedjourney.com, or she has a new website coming out, Macaulay Topash, TAWPASH.com. And superfood, today we're going to talk about one superfood, and that is, I think today we're going to say sweet potatoes. That's a nutritional superstar, and that's one of the best vegetables, she says, that you can eat because it's loaded with so many good things. The sweet potatoes, you can do them in so many different ways, but she's going to say, hey, lightly take a little bit of olive oil. You can put cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, a very, very healthy superfood for your brain. So let's incorporate the sweet potato. Joe, do you eat sweet potatoes?
Yes, I do, Christine. I love them. We make sweet potato fries.
And how do you prepare yours?
With a little brown sugar and butter. It's always good.
Oh, sounds good. And Colleen, what about you? You a sweet potato gal?
Yes, I just made a salad the other night with roasted sweet potatoes. They were roasted with rosemary and tossed them with kale and a homemade little lemon vinaigrette dressing, and it was fabulous with roasted pecans.
Oh my, that sounds wonderful.
It was great.
You know, I lived down south for a while, and sometimes they say pecan and sometimes they say pecan, depending upon where you're from. Isn't that the truth?
Mm-hmm. Where down south?
I was in Alabama for almost 8 years.
I was in Louisiana for almost 9.
Oh, so you understand that southern world.
Yep.
Yeah, really different than up here in the north where you're from, Andover, New Jersey, and I'm right over the border in New York, Warwick, New York. And Joe, where are you calling from?
I'm in Byram, New Jersey, very close to Andover.
Yeah, so you guys are close neighbors, but again, I want to talk to you today about Horse Sense, because Horse Sense Radio, do you know, we say that laughter is best medicine. And do you know what the definition of horsing around is? It's to play or fool around in a boisterous manner. So that's what we're going to do today, but we're going to take this horse sense radio and we're going to make it into some sensical, practical sense of common sense. Let's start with you, Colleen. Let's start with a little bit about what you do at your business. You run an Equine Tranquility Wellness Center. Why don't you tell our listeners about that?
I started the program about 11 years ago, almost 11 years ago. I have a kind of a similar background to Joe's. I was in the corporate automotive industry for 14 years before I left and decided I wanted to do something with horses and wellness and decided to start my own program. I was one of those girls who wanted always to have a horse from like the age of 3, but couldn't have one and couldn't ride, but had like 100 briars. And I was determined I was going to have horses in my life. I came into them late in life. I didn't get my first horse till I was 30. And then I went to get certified in Connecticut in late in 2009 to teach therapeutic horseback riding. And when I came back to New Jersey with my certification, there were no teaching jobs. So I started ETWC, Equine Tranquility Wellness Center, which we call ETWC. And I started it with 2 rescues. And my first business plan was to have, 4 or 5 horses and teach part-time. And since then, we've grown over the past 10 years. And we have a 21-acre farm in Andover with an indoor arena, an outdoor arena. We've got about 15 lesson horses. We teach full-time, year-round. We've got trails in the property. We do specialize in therapeutic riding. We teach regular riding, English and Western. We have day programs, camps, summer programs, birthday parties, and the newest edition of our programs that I'm really excited to talk about today is our leadership training program with the horses called EquiLead.
Okay, so let's just jump right into that. Tell our listeners what EquiLead is, Colleen.
So EquiLead is basically when we use the horses to teach leadership training skills with arena exercises and management and leadership training skills. And Joe brings to the table his expertise in
situational
leadership training.
So let's give an example, Joe, of situational leadership training for our listeners.
Well, situational leadership is really based off of Ken Blanchard. And if you never heard of Ken Blanchard, you may have heard his book, 1 Minute Manager. And it's really a influencing process where you're looking at the development level of the person, your follower, someone that you're trying to influence and lead. So you're looking at their commitment to the task or goal and what's their level of skills and knowledge. And then you're going to choose what leadership style you're going to use to direct that person. So there's a lot of flexibility.
A lot of flexibility. I've read that book. That's an amazing book.
Yes. I've been teaching situational leadership since 1994. I am a Blanchard channel member right now. So I look forward to bringing it into Equine Tranquility.
And I want to back up for a minute, Joe. You have loved horses since you've been young, haven't you? And you shared a little bit when you and I went for a visit to Colleen's farm, and you shared a little bit about your passion for horses. Just tell our listeners a little bit about that.
Well, it probably started when I was born. I was born in Wisconsin, and my family raised horses. They raced horses. And when I was raised in Chicago, and I would go to a horse livery stable and actually muck out the stable so I could ride. So I loved horses for a long time.
And I think Colleen and I will all 3 agree that, and most listeners will, you do whatever you can when you love horses and you don't own one initially and you want to take lessons or learn to ride. So you get in there like you did, Joe, and you muck out the stalls for sure. So I get it. Hey, all right. So we're talking about leadership program. Who would be a good client to come to such a program?
Any group of people that need to work closely together towards a combined goal or vision.
We were also talking about, a lot of people are working remotely right now. So to bring your staff to an outside environment and work with horses and get some leadership skills would be the ideal clients.
It's a safe environment to be in. It's outdoors. There's also small to medium companies, executive teams of larger companies. Family units are also a good environment for this. For-profit, non-for-profit sector is a good thing for this.
I just know that going back when I was over at the Winslow Therapeutic Riding, we used this program, similar program, this is years ago, but we had a bank come and we had a group of the bankers come, and you just hit the nail on the head, Colleen, because these are people that have to work together in an environment close-knit in a bank environment, in a financial institution, but it's financial, but it's teamwork. And that was the piece that we were working on, and we were working on communication. And Joe, maybe you can answer this. Why is communication so important, and how might you teach it in this situational leadership program?
Well, if you're shooting to hit a vision, or for someone to accomplish certain goals, I find the biggest obstacle is lack of communication in a lot of organizations. So anything you can do to bring that teamwork in, to make sure everyone is clear on the vision, will help you accomplish your goals in your organization.
And Colleen, you can jump in right here and explain to our listeners, horses, why are they a good modality? Because they don't always speak English. Some of them speak French, or perhaps even German, don't they?
When you talk about direct communication, horses learn through our body language, and we have to be direct, good, active listeners and watching their body language to be able to communicate through a horse or with a horse. And so when you talk about using horses as a modality to teach leadership training skills, it's really a form of experiential learning. And, humans learn best by doing. So there's a lot of science behind that. And so when you talk about teaching communication skills, and we set up an exercise in the arena with horses, for communication, they have to learn it's a direct correlation of learning of, having to learn what the horses, if they can't get the horse to do exactly what they want to do, how to communicate better and clearer and understand the relationship of what it means to be a better active listener or a better active communicator, within themselves than directly within the group.
And you hit the nail on the head again with the idea of a horse doesn't necessarily speak, he speaks a different language, and we speak a different language, don't we, Joe, when we're our body language? I might be thinking something and reacting to something you've said, and through my body language, you might be able to read something different from what I'm actually presenting verbally. So that has to be cued on, and you guys are both well trained in that. Can you give our listeners an idea of something that might be challenging that someone corporately is listening right now? What else might they bring to this training? And would you sit down with them prior to and say, hey, what do what's the vision? What are we trying to accomplish? How does that work?
We are preparing to do some classes in March, and we will send out a training assessment to our clients to ask them exactly what are they looking for in this training. We will give them some pre-workshop materials so they have a good idea on the subject matter, but we really want to hear what the client's looking for so we can meet or exceed their expectations.
Is there an ideal number in the group, or does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter, because we can set up the exercise for smaller groups or larger groups, depending on the size group. And we also, I just want to add to what Joe just said, is we also follow up with a post-assessment, to make sure that the understanding and comprehension and the follow-through of that we've met and exceeded the goals of what the pre-assessment has set up for the group.
I love this idea. I think it's fabulous, and I'm glad that it's going to be right here close to our backyard for our listeners, although we do have listeners from Horse Sense Radio from all over the world, as far as Ireland and as far as Egypt now. I have a listener in Egypt, so it's pretty exciting. Wow. But horses have been around a long time. Haven't they, Colleen and Joe? You guys understand that. And they are, as we said earlier, just a great tool to teach. Now, Colleen, I'm just going to go backwards a moment, because we are talking about maybe family. You deal with people with learning disabilities, physical disabilities. So let's just say a family's listening right now and they say, hey, this might be something that we can do as a family. Could you give us a little example of that, perhaps?
Yeah. So we work with families all the time. So, for example, communication, I know we talked about that already, but communication in a family unit is always a challenge, especially when you talk about a family with a special needs student or child. A good example that we would use in the arena is an exercise called the brain. So basically, say you would link arms, you would connect three people, say a mom, a dad, and one of the children. And the middle person would be the brain, and the person on the right, and it doesn't matter how you set up which person, maybe you'd put the child in the middle to be the brain, and the mom and dad on the outside. and they would be the right arm and the right leg and the left arm and the left leg. And the only person that can speak in the exercise would be the brain. And then you'd put two horses in the arena, and the exercise would be that they have to go catch a horse and put a halter on it and bring the horse to you. And the only person that can give directions and speak is the brain. And they've got to give directions to the right arm and the right leg and the left arm and the left leg. And so they go out and they have to pick a horse with only the brain speaking and then giving directions. And, they've never had to halter a horse before, so it's a new exercise altogether. So it's already a challenge. And then the communication of just them realizing that they can't speak and that they have to work together as a team to accomplish a task, and realizing how hard it is when they don't communicate well. And then when they actually get it accomplished and they find the success factor of getting the halter on the horse and bringing the horse back, and they succeed, it's such a good feeling and a win-win for them as a team, that it brings them closer together as a family unit. But then there's the recap and the talk after about how does it feel, when you couldn't communicate, and how did it, that's the whole wrap up of like getting them to learn to communicate better as a family unit. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. What's the difference of being I feel understood or I am misunderstood?
Exactly.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that. I mean, just alone, like you said, just putting the halter, if you have non-horse people, that could be a trick in itself. If you're a horse person, you know how to put a halter on. But in the brain, in the middle, I wonder, I have to believe that this is such a valuable exercise for anyone. I mean, it doesn't have to be a family unit, for corporate training, for a small business owner, because communication is so vital and so critical to the success of the unit, whether it's a business or a team, or as you said, a family unit. Oh, this is exciting. Now, you do this all year round. It's been a little chilly, but you have a nice indoor arena. So if you're listening and you're thinking that, it's cold out, you can reach out to Colleen, and she'll work with you as far as letting you know where the facility is and the indoor arena, which is critical. What else do you guys want to share with us today? Joe, what do you want to share with us a little bit more about what you do at Automotion?
Well, Automotion is really dedicated for after sales and customer service management and situational leadership. So with my experience in the automobile industry, I try to capitalize on that. But I have expanded our services out to the community with development disabilities. So we're working a lot with direct supports to try to provide them with some situational leadership skills. If you're working with an individual and you're not really, that person may be nonverbal, you have to be able to work with that person and give them clear direction or listen to their needs. So that's really what brought me into this community.
You are a mentor to some young people right now, or young adults, aren't you? Aren't you involved with that heavily, right?
Yeah, I belonged through Big Brothers Big Sisters probably for the last 20 years. I have 4 young men around the country, and I still keep in touch with them. And I also mentor and advise a lot of the people with development disabilities.
Well, you can see I'm working from my home studio today, and I have 2 little helpers. They're not horses, and 2 little dogs. They were doing so good. Phoebe, they're actually my little mascots, Phoebe and Boo, and they get so upset because I feed the birds, and what happens is guess who comes and eats my bird seed? Just take a guess.
The squirrels.
Yeah, so we were doing so good for about 2 weeks, and now all of a sudden the squirrels figured out how to get to the bird seeders, and they are just doing a dance on top of the bird seeder. But listen, I think this is very exciting for our listeners to know that this is available to them, anyone, family members, corporate, small business owners, because we are talking about communication. What do you want to leave our listeners with, Colleen, before we let you go?
I think that leadership in general is about developing ourselves first before we can help develop others. And it's about personal growth. So I think this whole program is about, besides personal growth, it teaches you with the situational leadership where your personal leadership style is, and how to take that back to your organization and help develop your organization and grow your organization and create team collaboration. and communicate more effectively your vision with your company, and grow your vision with your company. And all those things, start from yourself and grow outward. And I think that's an important fact to note. And that leadership is a journey, and enjoy the ride.
And what about you, Joe? Why don't you share in closing thoughts what you might want to leave with our listeners?
With situational leadership, it's really, and working on what Colleen said, it's really about self-awareness. If you're going through the horse exercise, you may identify your leadership style you're using right now may not be very effective. So if you learn some different styles and you understand the theory or philosophy with situational leadership, it's rather a common sense approach. That's really why I like Ken Blanchard. And once you learn the theory, you can use it in your corporate life, and you can also use it in your family life.
I like what you just said, because common sense approach. That's why this is called Horse Sense Radio, a podcast, because horse sense is very practical common sense, because horses don't, they're so real. They're just, they speak volumes from their own body language as an animal to us in that very common sense approach. So I think taking the two of these approaches together actually are a win-win situation. Don't you both agree?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's exciting.
It is exciting. So remember, we started with a quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn." And this is about involvement. So if you just tuned in, or you need to get back on, get a pen and paper, because we're going to give you some contact information, and I'll certainly have it listed on the program as well. But Colleen, how would someone get in touch with you?
Our website is www.etwc.org. My cell phone is 201-970-3400. You can call or text.
And what about you, Joe? Let's give the contact information.
Yes, it's Automotion Consulting and Training. You can find me on LinkedIn. My cell number is 908-674-6083. Love to talk to you.
Well, guys, this has been so much fun. This is just I want to say the tip of the iceberg, because I know I'm going to have you back, because I'm going to be out there with you on that. I think in March, we're going to be doing something. I'm going to come and join you. We'll do a couple interviews, and we're going to see firsthand. So listeners, if you want to be involved in this, or you have an interest, please reach out to Colleen or to Joe, or you can email me at horses@warwick.net. That's horses@warwick.net. And I'm your host, Christine Rolando from Horse Sense Radio. And we look forward to, and we thank you for listening today. And remember, keep horsing around. It just makes sense.